everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to Tuesday Talks with Margaret. This is Margaret Pickard and my friend Stephanie Huey. Wait, are we not on?
Live.
Tell me when we're live.
We are live. Okay.
Thank you for joining Stephanie and I tonight. We're going to have our second Tuesday Talks with Margaret. Super excited about how it's going. Stephanie and Matt came up with this concept and we got over 1,000 views last week. So really excited about this new project. So Stephanie, thank you so much for being here tonight and making
for our second week. This is exciting. Well, you look good. You have a different background today. Your hair looks different. Did you do something different with your hair?
Yeah, so, we can't go to the salon now. So I have a wonderful, wonderful hairdresser, Tyler. Hi, Tyler. And I cut my hair last night because I got tired of it. And so I just sat there at the sink and I took a pair of scissors and I just chopped it off and it was really lopsided. So this was really kind of shorter than the other side because I think I took off like 3 inches. I should have done it when my daughter was here. And then I just colored my hair and because I don't want to have any gray or anything. Yeah, so I just did it.
Your hair looks lighter. That's good. Like it's lighter and neat.
Yeah.
I think you did a pretty good job there.
I cut off a lot of the bottom of it.
I kind of just did whatever I could today. I mean, yeah. Well,
great.
It's good that we're talking about parenting today for week 2. Let me tell you, because last night I was up till 12:30 in the morning with my 2 kids. Remember, my kids are 2 and 6 years old. Actually, today is my 6-year-old's birthday, by the way.
Oh, tell her, Caitlin, happy birthday.
So yeah, I mean, even if we jump right into this, I know because I actually had your book out last night.
Oh, you're so sweet.
How ironic. But okay, in the book though, I remember reading a part about bedtime stories, and you're gonna have to tell me this because I could not get them to go to sleep last night, like for the life of me.
So the 2 things that I recommend for this is that I really learned it from my first venture into Parenting with Love and Logic, which I really rejected at first until I read the book. But one of the things that I always say is read a couple of bedtime stories. And I always remind the kids when my kids were little, I would say, okay, now when it's time to go to bed, you guys are going to tuck in. We go through our routine and they go to bed. And if they do what they're supposed to do, then they get to pick stories the next week. They get to pick the stories the next night. So one of the things that I mentioned last week that I love this strategy is teaching kids how they control their bedtime. So reminding them, like, what do you want? Okay, you guys all ready? Did you go to the bathroom? Did you get a drink of water? All right, so do you want the door open or closed? Do you want to have the stories on or off? And I always played books on tape or books on CD. And then I would ask, do you want to have the hall light on or off or the night light, whatever works for you? And I give them lots of choices. And then I tell them, okay, now it's time to go to bed and the stories stay on. But if you get up for any reason, other than, they kind of know there's some exceptions, but very few, is that the story's going to go off. And the second time you get up, the light's going to go off. And the third time, the door's going to close. And my kids hated the door closed. And I only had to do it one time because they learned I was serious. And it broke my heart to be serious, but I did it and it was effective. The first night we were traveling to visit my sister and I was exhausted because I would have to lay in with them every night. And then when they were abed asleep, I would try to sneak out of the room and go visit with my sister. But the first night it was like magical. I love that technique because it can be exhausting. I mean, you've got 2 little kids and you're getting your PhD and you're doing everything else. You're amazing.
Well, sleep is so important, but
it is super important.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that because I definitely needed something to make them go to sleep. I mean, even with us being at home, I feel like our days and our times are just so, like I don't even know what day it is sometimes, and so the kids. I
think you need just sleep. Like you need their sleep. I always say to my kids, I need your sleep.
And you have adult kids, you have grown kids. So I guess this is positive reinforcement pretty much. It's basic psychology, but you kind of put it in a parenting kind of spin, but it's not just with my little kids. Like you can use the same techniques with adult kids, right? Because I see your pictures in the background.
So when my kids got older, like they were teenagers, my rule was just you have to be in your room at 8 and they could read a book. They didn't have digital devices in their room, no TV, no computers, nothing like that. They could sit and read a book on homework. and then lights out for sure by 9:30. But I would let them choose, and they kind of understood that. I said this, I know my kids are watching, so they're going to laugh about this. I would say, I'm a good mom until 8 o'clock. After 8 o'clock, there's no guarantees. And so I would kind of, that was kind of, they understood that I kind of could lose my temper. But really, yeah, so these are my kids. So I kind of picked this one today because I knew we were talking about parenting, and you can see I've got my girls. You can see all my girls, but my boys are scattered in the same pattern with their partners. Yeah, so they're all there, but all 7 of the kids are there. And then I have a family picture as well. But I've always told my kids, when it's time for me to go into a retirement home, all I need is my big canvas pictures of all my kids and my family. So,
well, that's
it reminds me. Yeah, and I have a thing in my kitchen where last year, when it was my 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago, on my birthday, we have a tradition where we do signs and we say, we love you, happy birthday. We just handwrite them like with crayons or markers, and we put them all over the house. So the birthday person's going to wake up, and there's always streamers outside their door, and then they have signs, and it cost me nothing. I learned this when I was a totally broke single mom. And we started the tradition, and it cost me literally like $1 for them to make all the signs and do all the streamers, and I loved it. So when it was my birthday a few years ago, all the kids, it was the first year they were all out of the house, and I was a little bit sad. And so one of my girls decided that everyone was going to do a sign. So I was standing in the middle of Vaughn's in the grocery store, and all of a sudden my cell phone pops up with all of these pictures of my kids holding a sign that says, I love you. And it's just such a cool thing that they did for me. And I love it. And I have it up around the border of my kitchen, my grandkids, my kids, they all did it. It was really fun.
I remember you telling me that. That is so cute. I love it. So, speaking of parenting, I do see a message here from somebody, and I guess they said, what is your advice for parents who feel like they're not doing a good job? Oh my gosh, I could totally relate to this, because there are days where I feel like everything I do is just wrong, or I just feel impatient to where I'm not as calm and composed as I should be, So what? I mean, that's actually a real question right there. Like, what is your advice for somebody who feels like they're just kind of screwing everything up as a parent?
So one of the things that I always would feel, and I think it is normal for parents to feel, is that there are going to be nights where you're going to go to bed and you're going to feel like, I am a failure at this. I mean, we're all practicing, right? Like, so we're practice parents. So there's no handbook. We didn't take a class. We didn't get a college degree. We're just like figuring it out on our own, and hopefully with some friends' advice and parents' advice and other things. But it's kind of normal, I think, to feel like, okay, today didn't go as well, but tomorrow's going to go a little bit better. And it's hard. Like, it's really hard to learn how to do that. But the biggest thing, there's a really interesting study that was published in, I can't remember the year, but it was, I think, Scientific American. And they actually talked about what are the most important skills for parents to relate to their kids. And one of the top skills was stress management. That was number 2 on the list. Of course, love and affection, stress management, and positive relationship modeling were the top 3. But the second one was stress management. And it's so important to know where our boundaries are and to be okay with realizing parenting is not perfect. Like, we all are going to screw up at times. And it's okay to say, like, oh, you know what? I'm really sorry. I'm going to fix that. My kids would hate it when I would go to like a parenting seminar, because I would always come home and I'd be like, I learned all these really good things. We're going to try it. And they're like, oh no. Like, it took me forever to figure out a good chore chart. And I mean, you kind of learn it as you go. And so really being okay, like, be okay on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, because we're our own worst critics. And our kids are doing pretty well. And I say this to my friends all the time. You think that you're not a great parent, just come on down to juvenile court one day and you're going to be like the parent of the year, I promise you. So most of us are probably doing okay if we're interacting with our kids, playing games, enjoying our kids. And I say, enjoy your kids, because if you're stressed and upset, that's exactly what your kids learn, and they don't enjoy life.
So it's okay that I gave them each a can of Pringles before coming in here to do this so that they won't bother me?
Right? I think if it works for you, that's great.
Right? You're
perfectly fine. You negotiated a deal with them.
Right? So
there you go.
if you could have like one story to share about your kids, what would it be? What would be a story that you tell all the time, something memorable about your kids?
Oh my goodness, I have so many stories, but one of my favorite stories is when one of my girls was 8 years old, and we were driving in the car, and she said she had this like lofty dream that she wanted to take a bunch of balloons and fly up and sit on the clouds. And she thought it'd be really cool. And I thought that was a really good idea too when I was a little girl. So I thought it was a good thing because Bewitched did it. But you fly up to the clouds. And I remember her saying, well, I want to fly up to the clouds and I'm going to sit on the clouds and read a book. And I said, oh, but if you sat on the clouds, you will fall through because it's just tiny water droplets held together. And so you'd fall right down. And she said, how do you know that? And I said, jokingly, of course, I know everything. And she said, it was so funny. She said, did Keith teach you? And so it was basically like my husband would always say to the kids, oh, I know everything. And she really was 8 years old and she was impressionable and she believed it. And it was really adorable. But it reminded me that I learn as much from my kids as they learn from me. So we always think that parents are like teaching their kids. Yeah, but also we are parents in progress. We're learning from our kids. We learn every single day. Okay, maybe that didn't work. I'm going to try something else tomorrow. And I love that story because there's so many components of your kids idealize you. In fact, if you told your kiddos that the sky was purple, they would think blue is purple. They'd probably believe you when they're really young. But kids, they're so impressionable. And on top of that, they're really vulnerable. They believe everything that you have to say until they realize on their own, like, wait, maybe they're just joking with me. But I love that story because I also learned from her that day that, wait, she's taking me very literally and I just meant it as a joke.
Right. The younger they are, the more innocent they are too. And I feel like sometimes my daughters make these comments that I didn't think about because they have such innocent minds. So they ask such very basic questions. We're like, yeah, I didn't realize that, but it really does make you think. I see a comment in here that says, what about parents who have shared custody? That's actually a pretty good question, especially right now because we are kind of living in this quarantine where traveling and even visiting each other's houses are a little bit limited. So I'm sure at family courts, you deal with situations like this where you have parents that live in two different households or are separated, but they still have to parent, I guess, right? Like you still have to engage in parenting, but separated, I guess. So how do you deal with a situation like that?
So one of the things that I always tell people is that we're really in these times, I mean, I'm not giving any legal advice, but if there is a court order that you're supposed to share custody, you need to share custody. If there's a child who lives out of state, obviously the circumstances might be different, but expect that hopefully you can work something out with your co-parent. Like for example, if they live out of state, say they live in Texas, you might say, hey, after this is over, I'll give you some extra weeks during the summer to make up that time.
Right.
So that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, and parenting is, it's a partnership, right?
Right. Yeah.
So then
and I think I was writing an article on parental alienation with a friend of mine, and we were kind of putting some touches on it. And one of the things that we find in a lot of separating and divorcing families is that one parent just cannot share their child. And really, it's healthy for a child to have a relationship with both parents. It's healthy for us to all be involved with our kids and for the kids to feel lots of love around them.
Right.
It's hard.
Well, it is hard, and relationships are hard, on its own already, and then you kind of just throw in kids into there too. Well, I guess this is good for next week's topic too, because we're going to talk about relationships and couples and parents as partnerships. And maybe we'll even hear a little bit about you and your husband and how you guys met. So
I know we have a crazy meeting story, but I can't tell it this week, but we do. Everybody kind of looks at us like, that's how you met? And that's kind of my favorite story to tell. I love how to tell.
One of my favorite stories, when I first heard you tell me about that, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's next week. We're not going to talk about relationships
Right.
and couples this week. But, is there anything else that, like you can share with me as a parent, and also everybody else who's watching right now, on parenting and your own life experiences, but also you as just, a successful career woman as well. Like, how do you balance everything as a parent, but also, still have fun with everything? It seems like you have so much fun being a parent. I need
I
to
love
get
it.
that.
Well, I think you enjoy it, but I do think that there's the balance, right? Like, so it's hard because you go off to work and you're working all day, or you have a stressful project, or you have something that you're going to have to work on as soon as you get the kids to bed. But really, again, it goes back to that same concept I shared last week, was when you're 90 years old, what are you going to remember about life? Like, you're going to remember that your kids loved you. You're going to want those kids to be around when they're older. So enjoy that time. There's a ton of research on the importance of play. So that's why I get into the routine. Like, if kids know after dinner, everyone's going to clean up the kitchen and we're going to play cards together, or we're going to play a game together and the kids get to pick it out. It's just a fun, interactive time. But really, how you treat your kids and with what joy you greet them is one of the most important things for them, because it's their self-perception. If they feel like you're bothering them, if you're bothering, if they're bothering you, then it gets into their skin and they're like, oh, wait, mom doesn't want me around, so I'm not going to be around. And then pretty soon they're going to grow up and they're not going to want to be around. And I think one of the things I shared last week was the 5-minute rule. The first 5 minutes of your interaction influences the rest of the evening or the day or whatever time, because whatever attitude you greet the kids with, if it's excitement or joy, that's going to impact the whole experience. When I would go visit my mom when I was older, she was always so excited to see me. I don't know if she really was, but she acted like she was. So parenting is being a really good actor too. I mean, that's just the reality. Sometimes you are just acting and you're just trying to enjoy it the best you can. So have fun with it though, and let your kids know you're enjoying them, because I love being with my kids.
I love that every time I hear you talking about your kids, I feel like you're such a fun parent, but you also have fun on your own, for yourself.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. One of the things a friend of mine, actually her grandfather taught me. So Andrea's grandfather taught me, he's a principal, Anderson in Mesquite. And he taught me that you should always have a family reunion every year. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It's not like you have to fly everybody to Hawaii, but it can be just a situation where, like we do, we rent an Airbnb house. We all join together. In fact, the text just went out a couple of days ago. My daughter sent it out because now that they're older, they're helping organize it. And it was, okay, everybody, we're going to have a family reunion on these 5 days. Come if you can, bring whoever you want. And we're going to go, jet skiing, and we're going to just hang out and play games, do a couple of fires, do marshmallows around the fire. It's fun. And it can be as simple as just going to the lake and swimming and borrowing a house. In fact, we're borrowing somebody's house this year. So, but always do that because the kids look forward to it. We didn't do it last year because we had 3 daughters, count them, 1, 2, 3 daughters that got married last year. And we had one got married 2 weeks apart from the other. We had an April, we had a May, and then we had an October wedding. And we were crazy busy. And so because we had kids taking off to go to the weddings and we were renting houses for that, we didn't do one last year, but we're going to do one this year. And it's going to be really fun. And sometimes it can just be going hiking. We have pickled pancakes. Pickled pancakes are so fun. They're buttermilk pancakes that my husband makes when we're all together. And then we have German jump ups that my son Stetson makes. And we fill with berries and stuff. So we have a lot of fun traditions. And sometimes they become traditions just because we do them over and over and over. And I think especially when you're creating your family, it's about creating your traditions. So those are some of our fun things.
I love that. So, okay. Well, we will get into, I guess, more of your life later next week. But I know we're on Facebook Live right now, but how else can people find you, either on social media or elsewhere?
Yeah, so you can find me on Margaret the number 4, Margaret for Judge, sorry, I'm getting it all wrong, pickardforjudge.com, or you can also find me at Pickard for Judge on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. And so if you want to learn more about me and my campaign for Family Court Judge, I am running for Family Court Judge. It's the position I currently hold as a court master hearing cases in child abuse and neglect. And I'm trying to protect kids from abuse. And I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. The legislature changed the law last year, so instead of being an appointed hearing master, the person is going to be elected. So I'm hoping that I'm that person, and I hope I can get everybody's support. And that's one reason why we started these talks. It's because I think it's important for you to know, the audience, who you're voting for and what's going on in their lives and who they are and where they're coming from and what they've done for our community. So that's why these are an important conversation to be having every week. So I love it. I love working with families. My background is in family systems and family dynamics. And so I specialized in high conflict custody for about 10 years. So I love talking about anything family.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, next week, same time then, we're going to
Yes.
Perfect.
And I would say this, my final piece of advice is play a game with your kids tonight. Milton Bradley spent millions of dollars for a concept that a lot of families already had in play, and that was have one night a week that's family night, so the family knows they're going to have dinner together, they're going to play a game together, because interacting with your family members, there's a lot of research that suggests that if you just have family dinners a couple of times a week, there's a huge increase in self-esteem, lower rates of obesity, higher rates of positive family interactions. So have dinner, play a game, and call it your game night. So thanks for joining me this week, you guys. You are the best. Thank you, Stephanie, for doing these every week. You're the bomb. All right, you guys, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.